Pregame.com.
Welcome to Pregame.tv. Teddy Covers, Steve Fezzik, and we have the NBA playoff matchup set. We're going to start right here in the Eastern Conference. 4 series to break down. Let's start with the number 1 versus the number 8, the Hawks and the Nets. The red-hot Brooklyn Nets, 13-6 straight up in their last 19 games. The Hawks, just 7-8 in their last 15. We have the Nets with the big man in the middle, Brook Lopez, lighting it up. We're seeing Bogdanovic come through and hit huge shots, huge against Orlando on the season's final night. We have Joe Johnson returning to face his former team. Oh, and Atlanta doesn't have their defensive stopper, Cephalosha, to contain. Stop. I'm giving all these cases for the Nets here. What you're saying the Nets are no good?
Stop. Atlanta had the number 1 seed wrapped up 2 months ago. Yeah. You can take all this data, whether they cover it or not, in the garbage can. They've all been waiting. It's true they'll miss Cephalosha, no doubt. Be careful out there when interacting with the local law enforcement officials. You could get in trouble. Love Bogdanovic, bombing in threes for Brooklyn. But the problem is with this red-hot Brooklyn squad needs 1 win in their last 3 to make the playoffs. Blown out loss, blowout loss, and then down 10 against Orlando, playing for their playoff lives. I don't think they want to be here.
Well, all the quotes out of Brooklyn saying, hey, this team's live. Hey, we have a new life in the postseason. And the one thing is worth noting, the Nets, as an underdog last year, pulled a first-round upset. Atlanta, for all the regular season success they've had, this roster has not come through with any postseason success in recent seasons.
Brooklyn was pretty good last year, and Atlanta is really good this year. Brooklyn's no good this year. They're going to get their kicked in the series. They won't win a game.
You could say asses. They're going to get their asses kicked, says Fezzik. Cavs and Celtics. All right. Here's the Celtics, 20-9 straight up in their last 29. They went 3-1 against the spread against Cleveland this year, including back-to-back wins over the Cavs just this last week. We have Cleveland, a team with no playoff experience, a team with the modern era, no winning experience whatsoever. Kyrie Irving in his first playoff game, Kevin Love in his first playoff game, Tristan Thompson, on and on down the line. The Cavs have LeBron. What other advantage do they have?
Stop. No, start. They have LeBron. That's the advantage they have as far as, and I'm sure the media pundits are going to talk about how well, and don't get me wrong, I love Brad Stevens, great coach, but those 2 wins against the Cavs wrap up the number 2 seed, play Boston back-to-back. I firmly believe they actually dumped and lost on purpose to screw Miami, LeBron's former team, to knock them out of the playoffs because they didn't want to have Miami in there. As far as I saw, plus-minus on NBA TV, where in those 4 games when LeBron played, they were like plus 55 points. When he wasn't in the game, they were minus 50 points. I have every confidence that the King and his untested group of players are going to take it to Boston here.
Now, let me ask you this, because, I mean, really, I look at the Celtics, and all they've done for me is make money. Boston has been an absolute moneymaker for me. They've been printing money over the back half of the season for my clients and I. I love this Celtics team. We know that, round 1, Cleveland's laying 11 points in game 1. That number's only going up.
Looks cheap.
With these big point spreads, we like the Cavs to win the series, obviously, but are they going to cover all these numbers?
Cover game 1. If you like the Celtics, wait for them to get their butts kicked game 1, then come back in game 2. Maybe instead of the line's 11, and I think it's going to go up. I think it'll close 12. Rather than lose your money with 12 in Boston, I would invest your money getting plus 11.5 game 2 against Cleveland.
That makes a lot of sense. Celtics have been remarkable off a loss this season. The 3 and the 6 seeds, we have the Bulls and the Bucks. There are many out there that are calling Chicago a legitimate contender in the East. I am not one of those people, but there are. And, of course, the Bulls, when it comes to crowd support, they're going to get crowd support at the Bradley Center in Milwaukee. They're going to have a ton of fans there. They might have more fans than the Bucks for Milwaukee's home game.
Hey, if I live in Evanston, Wilmette, on the north side of Chicago, it is easier for me to just hop up the 94 and go to Milwaukee to see a game than to try to get into downtown Chicago.
And tickets are cheaper too.
No doubt. You gotta love what the Bulls have done with their big men. You got the ugly Gasol, and the other one's not that attractive, I might add. You got Noah, good Lord, Gibson. Brooklyn and the Meritek, the rookie that looks like he's 60. But I don't like either team. I think Brooks is better than bringing back Derrick Rose. And I don't think Brooks is very good. Rose hitting 28% from three. I think he's a cancer for the team right now. He's not what he used to be. I love Jimmy Butler, but I think the Rose talk making them a contender is nonsense.
Yeah, I'm with you in that. And certainly, Jason Kidd, a head coach who engineered a first-round upset last year with the Nets. Against the Raptors, admittedly, Toronto last year, probably not as good as Chicago this year, but I'm certainly concerned about all the rumors floating around Tom Thibodeau right now, saying that as soon as the Bulls lose, he's packing his bags and getting out of town and looking for another job. Could this be a situation where the underdog plays good defense? Milwaukee's a great defensive team. In fact, both these teams, top 5 in defensive field goal percentage allowed for the season, and Milwaukee led the NBA in turnovers forced this year. The one difference between Brandon Knight and MCW, Knight was better offensive player, MCW probably the better defensive player of the two. And of course, when they met in the regular season, 4 meetings, 4 unders. You expect more of the same here in the postseason.
Well, you're playing poker. You just flip your ace-king face up. Teddy is going with the unders in this series. And yeah, absolutely, Brandon Knight, that was key. They trade him, God knows why, and Milwaukee couldn't score after that. Maybe their defense was better, but they had no offense. They go 7-17 straight up after the All-Star break. Then they string together 3 wins against the Knicks, Philly, and a Brooklyn team, which I think was trying to lose on purpose to get out of these playoffs. I hate both teams, so I can't bet on the sides. I like it. Let's play under.
Sure. And let's talk about the Raptors and the Wizards, the 4 and 5 seed in the East. Neither squad would be in the top 10 in the Western Conference, and yet this is a 4-5 matchup in the East. This has been a very competitive series. 3 of the last 4 meetings decided by 2 points or in overtime. So tight games between these two squads. And, of course, Washington beat Chicago in the first round last year. Toronto lost to Brooklyn in that first round. The Raptors played defense down the stretch. Toronto is definitely the better of these two teams offensively. Washington has the much better defensive numbers, but over the course of the last month of the season, the Raptors played D. And, of course, the Raptors also won all 3 regular season meetings between these two teams. Anything on the Raptors with? This is not a series you have a strong opinion about.
Yeah, I don't know how healthy Lowry is, and without that knowledge, it's very difficult for me. I will say Toronto had a massive home field advantage. Even though they lost that series, the crowds they got were like collegiate crowds when they were in the playoffs. They're not used to being in the playoffs. I will say I do feel, as far as being in the top 10 in the West, I will take Toronto in a 7-game series against Utah or Phoenix, and I will lay it.
Okay, the 9th seed in the West was Oklahoma City. Sorry.
So you wouldn't put them in the top 9. You said top 10.
All right, they would be the 10th team in the West.
I'm nitpicking.
Right. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Nitpick away, my friend. There you have it, Eastern Conference playoff preview right here on pregame.tv.